Hey there, Rams. Welcome to the session on academic English. But before we start, I think we need a song. So this session will be about academic English during distance learning. So let's sing the Zoom School song. Oh, you don't know the Zoom School song? Well, let's fix that. Zoom School is so cool now. Zoom School is so cool. Zoom School is so cool now. Zoom School is so cool. Zoom School is so cool. We'll be waiting for you. Nice. Okay, let's dive into some stuff about academic language, and I'm going to focus on just briefly what it is and then some ideas of how you can start to incorporate it more into things you're already doing in your lessons for distance learning. So, the main idea is that academic language, it's what we need to like do school. It's the English we need to access content in social studies and science, in cooking class, in facts, in music. Each field of study has some unique characteristics, which I'm sure you know because you've been teaching that field for quite a while. It might be at this point so hidden to you because you're like, well, I've been teaching this science for 10 years. Like, what is the academic language? So as the EL department, we like to think of the academic language like, what is the language the kids are going to need to be able to read or listen to when you're presenting information to them? And then most importantly, what is the language they're going to need to be able to produce? So when kids produce language, they're usually doing it through writing or speaking. And so a good way to start is by looking at this language objective chart. And Alonzo uses this when he's trying to figure out what the language objective of his class is. And so if we're talking about speaking, maybe students need to make a comment. Like, for example, maybe you're doing a discussion post and you want kids to comment on a prompt that you give them. Or maybe they need to persuade. Maybe they need to explain. And if you really think about the difference between explaining and persuading, for example, there's a lot of different language that will be required. If you're explaining, you're going to need to be using words like, you're going to need to use sequence words to explain like a process, for example. Versus if you're doing persuasion, you're going to need to use words such as verbs such as should, or you need to, you must. In English, we might call those like modals. Like they change the meaning of like how urgently something needs to happen. And then like for persuasion, for example, you also would have, you'd need to teach the students how to introduce their arguments, like according to blah, 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 or as I discovered in my research. So if you're really at a starting point where you're like, I'm not sure what the academic language of my lesson is, we would recommend that you take a look at a chart like this to try to see like, well, what am I wanting kids to do? Like, what are they going to need to do to show me that they understand, my lesson on clouds or my lesson on apartheid in South Africa? So we would encourage you to look at the writing keywords or the speaking. Also, you could also do writing, like you could do persuasion with writing and speaking also. In terms of reading and listening, that's really about like the information that they're taking in. Reading and listening are what we call receptive skills, because that's information that the kids are receiving. And so these might even give you some ideas of like activities to do with your students, such as for reading, matching. So if you're doing like, for example, if you're doing some vocabulary word work, something that we like to do in the EL department is like matching the word with the picture with the definition. So doing like a three-way match, for example, or like reading like unscramble. You could give them like the letters of one of your keywords, and they have to unscramble it to make the keyword. Um, so if you're kind of stuck on kind of what the language is of your content, go ahead and use a chart like this. There's many different types of charts like this. This is one that Alonzo has had success with. Okay, now I want to show you a strategy that we use in EL a lot. Many mainstream teachers also use it, and it's the idea of sentence frames. So if you're already doing sentence frames, that is great. You are on the right track. So I want to show you how I've been doing sentence frames in distance learning. So for example, we are in my class right now, we're setting some goals for the trimester. So I had the kids watch a video, then I'm having them write a discussion post, okay? So when you have them do a discussion post, it very much helps the English language learners in your class if you give them a sentence frame. Because when I ask my students, like, why didn't you do the discussion post? They'll say, I don't know what to say. And sometimes what they mean is, I literally didn't know like how to write it. And sometimes they mean that they were actually struggling with the idea. But you can catch all those kids that are like, well, I just didn't know how to write it. Like, I know for this, as you watch one of the videos, write a discussion post about what you learned. I learned that I need 9 hours of sleep. So what do you want me to write? Like, I need 9 hours of sleep. The sentence frame helps them extend their language production beyond what they might be capable of doing completely independently. So that's why we would call the sentence frame a scaffold, because it helps them just like, for some of them, it'll help them take it to the next level. For some students, they could understand the sentence frame on their own. And that's why I like to include like a more advanced one for the students who want a challenge. So for example, my sentence frame here is, the video told me to get 9 hours of sleep a night. I learned that it helps to get 9 hours of sleep tonight. And then the more advanced is, one of the concepts I learned was I need to get 9 hours of sleep. And I want to try that because it might help me feel like I have more energy for my classes. Okay, so if you're already doing discussion posts, just take it one step further, and in the description of the discussion post on Schoology, add in the sentence frames and you will be good to go. One other way that in distance learning I'm doing sentence frames is for Flipgrid. So this is from Flipgrid, and it's the same lesson. So we watched a video with some tips for online learning, and I want them to give me some feedback about like what their goal is. So I created these sentence frames. I am good at blank, but it's hard for me to blank because blank. It always is also best practice to give them an example. So in the Flipgrid, I recorded my own as an example, as a model of what that would be. When I do a discussion post, I usually post the first discussion with a model of what a good response would be. I wanted to show you one of the let me find it quick. I wanted to show you what I got out of one of the students when I did this scaffold here. This is our student Ariam. She has been in the country for about 3.5 years. She's from Eritrea. And as you'll be able to hear, her English is still developing, and she's one that is really working on like expanding what she's able to produce in speaking. So here we go. Let's see what she says about her goal.
I'm good at make space for myself and schedule my time, but it's hard for me to wake up early, so I'll start to wake early.
Nice. You and me too, Ariam, right? So that was awesome. And she's also one that often takes one of the challenge like sentence starters that I do. So the main idea is if you are wondering like how to get started building academic language or having kids be able to produce more language, help yourself out and help the kids by giving them a sentence frame and see what happens. See if you're getting more responses from the EL kids, if you're getting better ideas from them, because oftentimes our students want to do the assignments that we put in the classes, but if it's speaking or writing, often they get stuck at that initial part of like, well, what do I say or how do I say it? So you can take away that burden for them with some sentence frames. So just to review, we learned the Zoom School is So Cool song. We looked at the idea of that writing and speaking. You can do a lot in English when you're writing and you're speaking. So think about if you're having them write or talk, like what kind of writing or speaking are they doing? What do you want to hear them say, or what do you want to see them write? And then go ahead and give it a try with some sentence stems in like a discussion post and in Flipgrid if you are using Flipgrid. Okay, I'm always here to talk about like individual cases with you if you'd like to dive into your content. I have time to be able to do that. I just need you to let me know you want that, and we can schedule like a one-on-one time where we could just look at what you have in your Schoology and tweak it a little bit, and I can point out what you're doing that's already working. So thank you for listening. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk soon.